How's it going, guys? Fancy here, and today is a game that I'm very excited for, and I'm not sure how excited I should be. But recently, Campaign Evolved came out, and I feel like such a fence sitter right now because I don't know if this is good or if it's bad because there's people that are clearly very conflicted right now about how they feel about the Campaign Evolved gameplay and trailer that came out. Basically, for you guys who don't know, yesterday for HCS, the first day, literally, and I think even before the stream even, Microsoft, Xbox, or Halo basically released the campaign evolved gameplay and trailer way before the stream started, and a lot of people got to see basically what the new Halo game is. I think they were kind of scared for like leakers or something like that, but whatever it is, it was a very strange launch, and I even felt like it wasn't underwhelming, but I wasn't very overwhelmed either. There was just something that kind of stopped me in my tracks and felt like something's a bit weird going on here, you know? But I'm going to start with basically what it is and how I feel about it and some of the criticism I'm seeing and maybe things that they can do better, but obviously with 343's track record, I'm not very sure. But right now I'm just kind of playing Combat Evolved, the classic silent cartographer in the background, so you can kind of get to see a comparison of how it looks like in the campaign Evolved and how it looks like in the actual game. And of course there's Anniversary, but no one wants to play that shit, so... But the campaign Evolved is basically a Unreal 5 remake of the first Halo game in 2001, and it's going to be very interesting what they do with it because it's not only a remake, but it literally takes a lot of the assets from previous Halo games and the literal level design and scale of Halo CE and just put into Unreal 5. And I think that's where a lot of people have been discussing the issues and how they feel about it, because I think in an artistic sense, there's something very lacking here. I think the game is a great visual tech demo, really, but it doesn't have the artistic messaging behind it. And what I mean by that is it literally rips from Halo CE and just puts better visuals on it. There's not really like an intentional design behind it. It's really just, hey, this thing looks like Halo. It's Halo. And that's kind of weird. So how am I going to explain this to you? Because I don't want to come off as someone who's basically a Halo fan just complaining about everything, but I think there is something genuine here to criticize about, and I think a lot of people just aren't realizing that, because I think a lot of people who are going to be playing this game is going to be their first times and are going to be completely unaware of the issues, and whether that's good or bad, I can't tell you, because I don't know. Because I think it's great that this Halo game is basically designed to appeal to basically the PlayStation audience. This is going to be the first time a lot of my friends who grew up with the PlayStation, not the Xbox, that are going to have the first time of experiencing a moment in their life that I cherish a lot, which is being a Halo fan. Halo Reach was the first Halo game I got to play, also Halo 3 and ODST back in like 2010, 2011, 12-ish, that section of my life basically, and I would have been like at least very young, doing math here. I think I would have been like 5 to 7 years old when I was playing Halo Reach at the time. And that's very young for someone like me. But yeah, I think a lot of people just had unrestricted access to the internet anyway. But I really enjoyed Halo Reach, and Combat Evolved is another game I got to try as well when MCC came out. So I didn't really get to try out on the original Xbox or anything, but I understood how important CE was, and I loved playing that game as well. And it's one of my favorite campaigns for sure of all time, behind maybe Halo 3 ODST and Halo Reach's campaign. I think those are like all my favorite campaigns, really. Halo 2 is also up there for a really good campaign. Again, all the Halo games are great. It's even hard for me to choose because most of it is mainly just bias and what times of my life I was born. But what does that have to do with Campaign Evolved? A lot of new people are going to get into it. A lot of people are going to be introduced into Halo. And I think that should be at least the one good thing that's going to come out of this, is more Halo fans, more people to appreciate the game. And I think that's just a good thing. And I know a lot of people are going to gatekeep that idea, But like, look, Halo is a 25-year-old series, and I think it's kind of something that a lot of fans have to learn to move on. However, this remake I wouldn't say is like the best way to do it, and I'll tell you why and what the issues are. One of the issues I have, again, and I think I said in the beginning of the video, is artistically, it's a very noisy game. There's not a lot of anything unique about this title, because these are things I can kind of point out from different Halo games. And the only reason why I didn't have an issue is because I didn't have an issue with Halo Infinite's art style. Because if you see a lot of the Covenant enemies on the screen, they're all directly pulled from Halo Infinite, if you've noticed. They're all from Halo Infinite. I don't think any one of them looks different. However, I think one thing I can probably point out and maybe say a justification for is, look, Halo Reach has a lot of assets that are literally just stripped from Halo 3. I think that's something I can be objective here, and they're just kind of a little bit like remodeled with new details and whatnot, because obviously it's a sequel to another game or prequel. You're gonna have to have some differences in its art style, but Halo Reach had an art style that's very significant to it, where it's a lot more grim-dark than Halo 3, even though a lot of the way the game looks is kind of Halo 3-ish, if that makes sense. But there's a lot of differences, you know, like the ODSTs look very different. Obviously the enemies, the elites look very different. I don't think the grunts were changed as much, besides like a little bit more detailed. But like, that's kind of how you reuse assets from a previous game and make it where it's like very unbelievable. And with the Campaign Evolved game, it kind of feels like they just kind of ripped it off of everything. I think the Combat Evolved Magnum to me looks exactly like the Halo 5 Magnum, which might be weird to say because the Halo 5 Magnum is ripped straight from the Combat Evolved Magnum. So I don't even know how you're going to even make an excuse of it's ripping assets, but that's just how it looks. Again, I don't know, because everything kind of mix and mashes in this art style. Like, the enemies are Halo Infinite, the Magnum looks like a Halo 5 Combat Evolved Magnum. The only things I can really identify that look very new to me is maybe the plasma pistol, the plasma rifle, and the MA5B. Those are the guns that actually, to me, in my head, look like these are totally new things and totally new animations. And that's something I can kind of appreciate, because I think they look cool. Except the MA5B, I think it's a bit too clunky and weird. It's slowly growing on me, but it has that weird like Halo Infinite like visuals on its ammo counter that I just did not very much like. I just think it's a bit weird. It's not like as clunky and makeshift that felt like in the previous Halo games. It almost feels like you're just ripping off of Halo Infinite's visuals and putting it into this game. That's just something that's really something I just can't get in my head, where it doesn't make sense to me. And it doesn't speak to me like a classic Halo game for some reason. And even though that's kind of weird, it just doesn't really. I don't know. There's something about it that doesn't have a Halo flair to it. But again, that's just me and the Halo fan voice talking out. There's a lot of pros in this game, okay? There's 3 new prequel missions we're getting, which is going to be very cool, and they're going to focus on the relationship between Chief and Johnson, which I think having more Sergeant Johnson levels, count me in. That's a great thing. I think that's really cool. And then they can expand more with having other new things, like maybe having ODSTs like Fireteam Raven and stuff from the other games, and just pulled in here. Those are cool too. There's also new weapons, like the battle rifle is coming, the sentinel beams, needle rifle, which is an odd choice, but I think it's hinting a Halo Reach styled level maybe. A fuel rod cannon, obviously. The energy sword that you could get from the Gold Elite is also going to come in here, and you can use it as well, which is going to be very cool. That's something I think everyone really wanted. Blood splatters are coming back. More weapons that haven't been revealed will come back. You can drive the Wraith, which is really cool. I think that's in 2 Betrayals, I might be wrong, where the Wraith appears. It's in the snow map. But, or maybe it's Assault in the Control Room. That actually might be what it is. But again, there's so many things I'm very excited for, and they are genuinely touching on things that a lot of people wished that were in CE that are now going to be in CE. You know, like vehicle hijacking and stuff that came in Halo 2 is now going to be in Halo Campaign Evolved. But besides that, I feel like I'm very worried for is one, the amount of time and effort put into this game. I want the enemies and the things that were just taken directly from assets to be at least changed a little to reflect more on the Combat Evolved art style. Because I think the Marines are a no-go. I think the Marines, the way they look right now, is not something I'm really too happy with. Because it's that generic, like, we've already seen this kind of, like, Halo Marine looking style. I want the green lenses and, like, the brown colored, like, Marines that they look like in Combat Evolved. I want that more, you know? I want something at least visually different that I'm not like too used to seeing. But again, it's a lot of mishmashing of styles, I think, in this Halo game. A lot of styles going on here, you know? Like seeing a Halo 5 sprint in Combat Evolved is very jarring to me in my head, and I don't know if I like it or not. And I think the game is just visually busy, you know? I felt like enemies kind of blended into the background way too well, that it just didn't speak to me about like what kind of color they were or anything. Like I didn't get a clear look of like how grunts and jackals look like because of all the shadowy shadows that are just hitting on them. It just made it look all black to me in a weird way, even though there is clearly a lot of color to it. And a lot of people complained about the Forerunner structures. I kind of agree. It's a bit too shiny for me. And they also just kind of replaced a lot of that round architecture that's normally there, like the Hunter look, or even that first like Forerunner structure poking out of the beach. It's just completely changed to the same monolith triangular structure that I just kind of don't appreciate for some reason because it doesn't fit. And I don't think these are going to change because of we don't even know when this game's going to come out. I thought it was going to come out maybe November, but ever since they put out like the pre-install for the game, it makes me kind of believe it's coming out way sooner than we think, like February or March, which I just think is too soon for how much people are giving feedback and the changes we might want. Because I think the only things that we'll actually see differently changed is the weapons audio. Because I think the audios, the gunshots, the audio that's going on with the weapons is just way too confusing for me to understand. It's not hitting for me. It doesn't sound like Combat Evolved to me. It sounds like a mishmash of like the MA5B sounds like the Halo 3 assault rifle, but a lot quieter or something. Like it's trying to be a beefier version of the BB gun sound effect. I don't know. And the Needler is just a Halo Infinite Needler. That thing is not even trying to be like unique at all. I don't even know why they have it like that when they have the Halo CE model somewhere sitting in their corner. There's just something I don't really appreciate going on here, but I really think it's a good looking game and it's going to do great for our new fans, but for old fans it's just not for them. And it's a confusing thing because I don't believe the Halo community is at all in a good place, but it's all coming from a very justified point that they're just not happy with the Halo series. But it's at the same time it just doesn't respect the Halo fans. And another thing that's going to be at the fault of this game is definitely the lack of the multiplayer. I think the game desperately needed a multiplayer. There's just something that just doesn't make sense to me because it kind of removes the longevity and also the purpose of what Bungie had and the fun times we had for Halo Combat Evolved. Like, the game is supposed to be more of a party game, and yet they just kind of removed that aspect of it where now you're just playing 4-player co-op campaign with your friends, and maybe you'll try to figure out how to play multiplayer that way. Which kind of sucks. Also, having a sprint toggle is so weird to me because there's not really any justification for it. It just kind of proves to me that 343 doesn't understand game design, and they keep nerfing how sprint works in every Halo game, that it kind of shows to me sprint doesn't have a place in Halo at all, and even they are aware that sprint has no place, but they keep putting it in as a checkmark box for every FPS game ever made. Which is something I even complained about in Doom the Dark Ages for having sprint, because it's just a button toggle on and off. And I don't know. Sprint is just something that doesn't make sense to me. But again, complaining about it doesn't make me feel any better, because it's like the least of my issues, but it's there, so it just automatically triggers. And I think the presentation for it shouldn't have been like that. Like, the HUD, everything in that presentation just felt wrong. The HUD, for some reason, whoever was playing the game, put the radar on the wrong side, which made a lot of people assume that's how it is on default, even though later on we kind of confirmed that you can actually change that. Again, presentation-wise matters a lot, and the HUD should have not been the way it did, whoever was playing. Also, sprint. The person should have just toggled off sprint for the demo. They shouldn't even showed it at all. Just have it. If you're going to say it's a toggle, don't show it on the presentation and just have it off by default so people don't get the wrong idea of it. Because that's something that's going to suffer and make the game very negative. And even little bits of pieces of the gameplay, like the 60 round like assault rifle is 32, even though everything else is completely changed, like the Magnum is a 12 round magazine, but you kept the assault rifle changed. That doesn't make sense to me. There's a lot of things in the presentation that were so easy beats that just weren't solved. But the one thing that they got right was, for some reason, the blood splatter, which is confusing to me, because there's a lot of good things about it, like the flood and introducing new pure forms and all that other stuff that they kind of revealed that I'm very excited for. But again, first impressions means a lot to people, so when you present it literally before a live stream and you do everything wrong, it just kind of ruins it for everyone. But this is kind of like my recommendation of how I would probably do a Combat Evolved, no, not a Combat Evolved, I wouldn't even remake Combat Evolved, but like a kind of PlayStation remake game that would have been perfect, and I think it should have been Halo 3 ODST, and I'll give my reasons why. One, a lot of people asked for Halo 3 to be remade. I don't think it should be. I think it's a perfect classic the way it is. As much as I would love a Halo 3 anniversary look, I don't want another game sold on MCC again. It just is kind of a waste of time for me, and again, it's just Halo 3, and I think if you do that, a lot of the PlayStation fans are going to get very confused because they can't play the first few games, but immediately put into Halo 3. Continuity-wise, for new fans, that doesn't help anyone, because that implies you need MCC in there. Another thing, too, I think Helldivers has done the greatest goodwill for Halo in a very long time. Because a lot of PlayStation fans probably know about ODSTs, it makes sense to make a remake of ODST. It would revamp a lot of things and make a lot of the issues we have with newer Halo games a lot more justified. Like things like Sprint makes a lot more sense for an ODST than a Spartan, because ODST is a spin-off game and it's totally different. You even have things like a stamina bar, which would have been made more sense to have a sprint then, because I don't think visually I understood what the stamina bar even did in Halo ODST when I played it back then. That's just little things I've been constantly noticing because I've been replaying the ODST game for my ODST lore video. These things would fit perfectly. You can even revamp the way New Mombasa looks, maintaining its darkness things, but open up the world a bit more and make it more exploration and everything. You could even do what Halo Infinite failed, but also still maintain the linear level design that Bungie put out for that. And you can do things like add a stealth mechanic. You know, stealth combat would have been really cool for the suppressor weapons like the Magnum and the SMG4. You can even add more weapons, like maybe a suppressed like battle rifle or something like that. There's so many ways you can do with ODST, and it's a totally different story, so it doesn't ruin the continuity, and for new fans like the PlayStation players to be very confused with what's going on here. Plus, I think the voice acting is great in that game. I think the campaign is great in that game. The story is great. It's a short campaign, and then you can easily fix it up by putting in like a firefight and then maybe make your own ODST multiplayer. Which also, again, is another idea I think I had, because 343 has done such a weird way with redoing the Halo multiplayer that making a Halo 3 ODST multiplayer can be very different, and that allows 343 to do way more things with the Halo gameplay, so it's not the same Halo game we are always expecting. You can have something new and different with that game. But that's just something I've noticed. I just think Halo 3 ODST would have been the perfect fit, not Campaign Evolved. But I understand because Master Chief is such a marketable character, and Halo 1 will make more sales, I guess. But again, there's just a lot of things I'm noticing. I just think visually it looks great, but artistically it's terrible. And no multiplayer coming out with it, I don't think it would be worth $70 if you're going to buy this game. I think this game will probably be charged with $50 like the Oblivion remaster. Again, this feels like an Oblivion remaster situation where it is literally the same game, but it's going to have all the same things you basically expect. But that's just everything I've analyzed in this whole Halo trailer reveal. I'm happy for it, but at the same time, it doesn't fix the future of Halo, and especially with Xbox, they're not going to do any more exclusives anymore, which I don't care. That's not a big deal. I care about Halo, and it just feels kind of bleak. But yeah.